Titan has been here at my ranch for about 90 days now, but I've known about Titan for quite some time. Actually, I remember when Clinton told me that Princess and Diamond had a baby and it was a paint by Gunner, that I got pretty excited and I inquired about him as soon as pretty much he was born. You know, Princess and Diamonds, we all know how great of a mare she was herself, and she produced some real nice foals. I was lucky enough that I was involved in a training and showing career of Chromed Out Mercedes. That was one of her early foals, and you know, he had a special place in my heart and in my training program, because he kind of, together with some other horses, kind of put me up on the map as one of the top trainers. Chromed Out Mercedes was one of the best ones. I loved his mind. It was one of those horses that you just enjoy riding every day. So when Clinton called me and told me that Princess had a baby by Gunner, I got pretty excited. I asked him if he wanted to sell him. Of course he said no, and at the beginning I thought that he was just playing the game, that he wanted more money, but he really didn't want to sell him. You know, I tried as a yearling, and I followed him. You know, I loved Titan. I loved the look of him. I didn't know what he felt like, but I had a pretty good feeling just looking at him going around that he was going to be something special. You know, I don't know if he's going to be a great one. We don't know until we go show, but he's definitely one of those horses that have something unique about him. When you look at him, you know he's different. When you ride him, and I've been lucky enough now that I've been on him, like I said, about 60, 90 days, and I can tell you that it's a pretty special feeling when you're on him. So up to today, we've been working on approach to the stop, making sure that our horse is listening, and Titan is doing all that. Now the last thing that's left for me to check is making sure that I can roll my horse back after the stop, and making sure that I can do it good enough to where it's not going to take any points away from the stop, and hopefully actually add some more points. The rollback is just judged together as one maneuver with the stop. I feel that a lot of people don't put enough concentration on getting their horse sharp in the rollback, and all that work about getting them stopped right and getting them stopped to where they can get a point, they take it away from having real pull rollback. So in my program, I want to make sure I concentrate just as much in the rollbacks as it is in the stop. And I feel that this is probably where Titan and I have a little bit of work to do. You know, like I mentioned, I've been on him for about 90 days now, and we've been touching most of these subjects, but I feel that up to maybe a couple of weeks ago, I didn't put as much emphasis on the rollbacks, and it's something that we need to work on. So this will probably be good for you guys to see, because it's probably going to expose some of the things that we need to work on and give you a good idea of what you need to do on your horse maybe later on. I don't have to worry about his stop. His stop is in him, it's in natural, but I need to make sure after that stop he's going to concentrate on what's coming up next. I teach my horses to roll back at a slow speed, but now that Titan is almost ready to go show, we're going to need to introduce stopping at a medium to high speed and then rolling him back. I usually back him up before I roll him back, and the reason why I do that is because I want him sitting on their hind end, and I want him soft off my hand before we start the roll back, so I'm starting in the correct position. But now that I know that he can do that, I'm going to just turn him loose and stop and ask him for a roll back and see what he does. Sometimes I'll ask for a roll back the correct side, meaning if I'm on the left lead, I'll go down, stop him, and ask him for a right rollback. Sometimes I'll ask him to the left side, which is something that most times you don't do in the show pen, but I don't want to do always the right side, because if not, the horse is going to start leaning that direction at the end of the stop. That's one thing that's practicing too many rollbacks after a stop without having the backup in between. It's going to affect your stop. That's why we don't practice it as much as some of the other maneuvers as far as connecting it to the stop. We practice it, and if we feel that we got to work it, we can go work it separately. So only when you have a rollback that's real solid and a stop that's real solid, I would suggest that you do this. But I feel that we're both at that point with Titan, so let's go ahead and test it out. Like I said, I'm not going to blow him down the pan and going at 4th gear, but I'll definitely get a little bit of speed to just introduce that speed and that body position that we're going to have in the show pen. I'm going to roll him back to the right this time. Set him up straight. 1, 2. All right, here's the perfect situation. Do I want to roll back after a stop like that? Probably not. He stumbled, he was on his front end, he tried to catch himself back up, which he did, but I don't want to stop him there because he's not in the correct position, meaning that he's forward and he was worried about that stumble more than the rollback. So let's go ahead and do it again and give him a chance to be in a somewhat better position. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't want to make it that hard on him. One, two. I'm gonna break him down and ask myself, was I happy with that? What do I need to do to make it better? I was happy in the fact that he stopped and he followed my hand through. If you noticed, I stopped, I looked to the right, I moved my hand, and he came right through it. The only thing that I probably need to work on is that he over rolled back a little bit. I released my hand at half a turn and he came over further than that, which is actually a good mistake to have. I'd much rather have a horse that turns more than one that wants to lope off too early. So that's a good problem to have. And then probably the lead departure wasn't as sharp. I can tell you why he's doing this, because throughout his whole training career, he's been taught to follow your hand all the way through and wait for that cue to lope off. If you teach them to lope off too early, they're gonna not wanna turn all the way over, and that's gonna determine a poor rollback. So it's a good thing what he did, but it's telling me that I probably need to practice rolling back just a half a turn, a little bit more, so that he doesn't over roll back when I go show him. Let's do it one more time. What I'm gonna do is probably just release my hand just a little bit earlier. Let's do it in the diagonal so we change it up. When you do this, you don't have to be in the same spot as when you go show. You can just put it somewhere else. Sometimes I'll do it in the diagonal. Speed him up a little bit. That was better. He didn't over roll back and he had a pretty good idea to lope off right away. He didn't hesitate after that half a turn. That was good for me. When you do this, you don't have to be in the same spot as when you go show. You can just put it somewhere else. Sometimes I'll do it in a diagonal. Speed him up a little bit. That was better. He didn't over roll back and he had a pretty good idea to lope off right away. He didn't hesitate after that half a turn. That was good for me. You can always make it quicker by kicking him, but you can never make it correct if he's not solid. So until my horse is real solid doing a half a turn and loping off, I'm not gonna try to make it really quick. Every time you make things quick, you're giving them less time to concentrate on how correct they need to be, and I think that things can fall apart pretty easy. I can get one wound up, believe me, that's not an issue. Any reining horses, you can kick them a little bit harder and wind them up. It's making sure that everything is correct that's gonna be tough. Let's go do one to the left now. Once again, I'm probably gonna put him in a different spot than when I would go show so he doesn't anticipate it too much. Let's go in the other diagonal now. Get a little bit of speed. It was a little bit trashy, wasn't it? But it wasn't bad, meaning that he caught himself. Every mistake that Titan made there, he fixed it by himself, which that's what a great horse does. He already knew the minute he made a couple mistakes there, he knew what he needed to do. And those two mistakes were, at first when I asked him to turn, he almost was thinking about loping off too soon. And then he caught himself and came back through and he said, no, I need to go over here. And then because he caught himself, he wasn't concentrating on which lead and he wanted to lope off on the wrong lead. And then not even half a stride later, he fixed himself. You can't get after a horse for making a mistake and fixing it by himself. You're gonna go ask it again and make sure he doesn't do it again, but that's a great horse that's gonna fix himself. You just have to sit back and just let him do the job. That's one of the things about when you're lucky enough to be on a horse like this, it makes things a lot easier. We're gonna go ask it again, that left rollback. If you notice, I'm on the left lead right now. It doesn't matter which lead I'm on. I wanna make sure that he's got that left rollback down now that he made a couple little mistakes. Speed him up a little bit. He didn't want to lope off. He thought about going out on the right lead again, but he didn't. He loped off and went on the left lead. So this time, what I'm gonna do to fix that, which is not that big of a deal. I mean, we're looking for perfection here, but you know the way we do it. We try to do it as good as we can. A lot of people will probably be happy with that. What that's telling me, he's done it twice now to where he's stopping, he's turning, everything is good, but he's thinking about maybe going off on the right lead and then he fixes himself. It's telling me that he's leaning a little bit to the right in that turnaround. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go down and stop him and roll him back, but instead of letting him lope off, I'm gonna spin him a couple times to the left to remind him that left side, it's important. You gotta keep thinking left, and that hopefully gonna fix that left lead departure. Don't need to do it going fast, so let's do it going slow. Stopping, rolling back. Right here, I'm gonna turn him. And let's do that one more time. Lope off. Stop him. Turn him. This next time I'm going to ask him for the rollback. Let's go a little bit faster. That fixed that lead departure. Now before I finish with Titan, I'm happy with what he's done. We covered both sides. He rolled back real good at the end on both sides. Every time I finish working my rollbacks, I finish with just a backup. Because what do we do after we roll him back in the show pen? We back him up. So I want to make sure that just because I'm stopping and rolling back a few times, if I don't give you that cue of the rollback, I want to make sure that Titan doesn't go into the rollback by himself, because that's going to be either a poor maneuver or if he goes too far, even a zero. So at the end of this stop, I'm just going to ask him to back up by opening my legs and picking up a little bit on his face. I have my legs open here. That's good. He's not confused. I can even shake my hand on his neck, and because I've got my legs off of him, he's not going into that rollback. That's what a great foundation does. If you spend the right amount of time and you spend it right, you're not going to have as much confusion. If you notice, when he's backing up, he's got his head low, but that's where he wants to put it. If you watched him stop, what does he do at the end of a stop? He drops his neck. That's where he's going to go when he backs up. I can't make a horse drop his neck and look natural like he does, a horse that doesn't want to do it. Just like the way he stops. I'd love to take the credit that I taught this horse how to stop +1, and I'm sure Clinton would love it too, but it's not us, it's the horse. Depending on the quality of the horse, depending on his natural disposition, this horse is built with his neck down. Look at the way that neck comes out of his head. So I want you guys to understand that I'm not concentrating on a headset. I'm not concentrating on how perpendicular the horse is to the ground or how his nose is in the dirt backing up. I'm trying to get the best out of Titan. or just as much out of any horse that I'm on top of him. My job is to get everything out of him that they can do naturally. Obviously, my style prefers a horse that's round on his own. So if I've got a pick of 20 horses here, I'm gonna pick probably the 3 that are gonna build like Titan to go show. But that's not because I made him do that. It's not a head position and I forced him to do it. That needs to be real clear. The only reason why Titan puts his head down is because naturally he can still move his shoulders and put his head down. A horse that's not naturally built that way, if you put their head down, it's gonna lock up his front end. They're not gonna be able to back up as well. They're not gonna be able to roll back as well. The only reason why he can do it is because naturally he can move his shoulders while still keeping a lower head position. So my advice to you guys is to always look at your horse the way he naturally wants to move and try to get the best out of him in that position. Every time you try to separate natural and try to put a mechanical type of position on your horse's body, the more you're gonna run into trouble and the less the horse is gonna wanna perform. And I can guarantee you when you go show, problems are gonna happen. If a horse is naturally built a certain way and you make him perform that way, when you go show, you'll be able to maintain the way he goes around. When you change things up from his natural position, you go show and then people say, oh, he got me, he got smart in the show pen. He didn't get smart, he was smart the whole time. He just knew that in the show pen, he could go back to where he's naturally built to perform. So trying to change that, it's a big mistake that you can do.